Emmett Till was just 14 when he visited family in Money, Mississippi, where he was accused of whistling at the store clerk, who later was identified as Carolyn Bryant. Her husband and brother-in-law kidnapped Till from his uncle's home to where he never returned. A full trial took place, and the all-white jury found the brothers not guilty. Only 1 year later, in 1956, the brothers did an interview with Look magazine, where they admitted to killing Till and described the lynching in great detail. In 2004, the case was reopened. In 2008, Caroline Bryant disclosed that she fabricated her testimony and that Till never made verbal or physical advances towards her. The shocking news left Black America in tears and white America in defensive sympathy. And now I am joined by Airickca Gordon-Taylor, who is actually the cousin of Emmett Till. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here. There are questions that my cousins who went through that time frame, who lived through that they have, that she can only answer. Mm-hmm. But, you know, she's never spoken, and apparently she has written. Now, it was first stated that she wrote a memoir that was to be released in the year 2036. Mm. But then I happened to be scrolling through my TV guide, watching television, and I saw Blood of Emmett Till on it. And I was just like, what is this? Mm. And it was Timothy Tyson on book C-SPAN doing a reading and Q&A. And so I watched it, and one of the questions was, why did he wait so long to release it? And it was just because he claims because he was doing research and such. It was he was focused on his book.
Doing research, but never contacting
the family, right? Because my maternal grandmother, she passed away when I was 5. And so my mother already had a very close relationship with Emmett's mother. She used to come from Mississippi and spend summers with her. And then when my family migrated from the South, they moved into the home with Mamie and Emmett, they called it a garden apartment, the basement apartment of maybe a 2 or 3 flat on St. Lawrence in Chicago. Okay. And so they stayed there together, but we all had a very close relationship. My mother and I were like their daughters. Mamie would call me the grandchild she never had. Wow. Because growing up in it, it's not. She would always tell my mom, "You really don't have you really don't understand who I am." Mm-hmm. And we did, but we didn't understand it the way the world understood it, because we were so close to her. So we never looked at her like Emmett Till's mother. We knew she was Emmett's mom, but for me, the day she died is when it really kicked in for me. I was sitting in her house.
Wow. Because your mom actually took the call.
Well, no, she didn't take the call. She lived with Emmett. He was like another one of her brothers.
Was she home when Mamie received the call?
Yes, she remembers the cries. Okay. She was downstairs and Mamie was upstairs, and she can still remember the bellowing of the cry and the screaming that Mamie bellowed out when she got the call. It takes her to tell you about it, even as a child, some of the things that occurred, the threats and in
Chicago.
In Chicago, yeah, the mayor too, because they didn't want Mamie to come to Mississippi for the services. They threatened if she came to court. You know, there were bomb threats and different things. So Mayor Daley, Senior, the daddy, he put police protection out. The Nation of Islam got involved. You know, it was a very, very, very trying time. But Mamie, she persevered through it all. And she said it was God that helped her to stand up, because she was broken. You can imagine. She was very broken. But she said, she used to tell the story that she saw like a fluttering out of the side of her eye that looked like a white dove. And she felt the Spirit of the Lord speak to her. Okay. And that's where she got her strength from the Lord to get up and to fight and to do what she needed to do so that the world could be better. Absolutely. Because what she did was change the world. There was so much going on even before that. They tried to bury him in Mississippi before the body got to Chicago. Okay. They had to almost steal Emmett's body and send it home, basically. But they were able to get him home. He was in 2 big boxes. There's the big box that you see in the photographs that you could see online and around, but he was in another box inside that box. And you could smell him. They say you could smell him blocks and blocks away. It was a stench that you could smell. And there was a seal, a Mississippi seal and lock on the box that was not supposed to legally be broken. Okay. And Mamie told Mr. Rayner Sr. that she needed to know what was in the box. She said, because if it wasn't Emmett, whoever's poor soul it was needed to have a decent burial, but she needed to know if it was her son. Absolutely. And he said, well, legally I can't break the seal, Mamie. You know, what do you want me to do? And she asked her, well, do you have a hammer? And and he said, okay, well, let me take care of this. And they went back and forth, and that's how the box got open. And she went over Emmett's body. And if you visit our YouTube channel, Mamie Till Mobley YouTube channel, you can see her talking about the body. Yeah. And what she saw is she went over his body with a fine-tooth comb from the bullet hole where she could see the sunlight through his head. His nose looked like it had been beaten, she said, with a meat mincer. And she talked, he was not castrated. People think that he was castrated. He was not castrated. Okay. She wonders if the bullet, the shot to the head, because he was shot too, was even necessary after they beat him so. They said there was so much blood in the back of the truck. They told people, the Bryant, J.W., Roy Bryant and J.W. Milam told people they had been out hunting and they killed a deer. That's how much blood was in the back of the truck from Emmett being in the back of the truck. But but she said that when she saw what she saw, she told Mr. Rayner she wanted to have an open casket funeral because there was no way she could describe what she saw to anybody and they would believe her. And she wanted the world to see what she'd seen. Those were her exact words.
She absolutely described the body that she could only look from the feet and work her way up,
she went. She said she went from his feet all the way up to the head, the whole body. She checked his whole body, and she said his teeth were gone. She used to love his teeth. His ear was missing. It's a very. I played the video for some students last Monday because they were asking about the castration and such, and there was a debate, and I said, no, I'm going to show you the video. And so I turned on the video, and two of the young girls, and these were awards of the state, most of these students, they were just so emotional. And one was even, from what I'm told, the teacher is a colleague of mine. She said that the other student said that she cried all the way home. Yeah. And so.
This is definitely a story that sticks with you.
And now that Carolyn Bryant has come out and recanted her story and said that she lied, it just changes history.
It does.
It changes history.
Something that I'm sure the Black community already knew.
Yes. And we knew as a family because my cousins, Wheeler Parker Jr. And Simeon Wright were there.
So
and they told us.
How are they doing right now with the recanting of the statements and the next steps?
Well, Simeon said that he really won't believe it until she is standing in front of him.
Okay.
Or sitting in front of him saying it herself, you know. But he doesn't want any immunity. He wants justice for what was done. You know, they invaded his family's home, threatened his father. You know, his father was Moses Wright. It was his home. Emmett was in the bed with Simeon. Right now, Simeon is, he's not doing too well medically, but so we just are keeping him in prayer. Okay. But he's a fighter, we all are. And I think that his fight and what helps him to fight is he wants justice. He wants to see that justice, so he's fighting. Wheeler, for him, he said that he has forgiven her. He has, you know, he's forgiven, but Pastor Parker, you know, we come from a deeply rooted Christian upbringing, and he says hate destroys the hater. It makes no sense to hate. When Trayvon Martin was murdered, they really compared Trayvon Martin's death to Emmett Till's death. And it became a big discussion about that because many people were upset. How can you compare the two? People get upset because a lot of people compare what happened to Emmett to victims from today. When Trayvon was murdered, I felt that we needed to make a statement as a family to their family, not just because we felt the loss, but there was so much discussion about it. Okay. And I wanted the family to know, well, my family as a whole, I just am the spokesperson for the estate, for Mamie Till Mobley's estate. And as a spokesperson for the estate, I wanted their family to know from our family that we stood with them and supported them. When I went there, we formed a network. And from there, it just spun into myself becoming this activist. And I just started walking in a different path that I had not chosen for myself. Okay. I didn't choose the path. It just kind of chose me, and I just followed it and began working with families across the country that suffered loss due to police violence. Because for me, it just reminded me of Emmett and the police that are murdering our children and murdering our Black brothers and sisters remind me of the KKK, but they're just wearing badges now.
Do you think there's really a comparison as to the crimes that are taking place today against young Black men with the police departments and what happened with Emmett?
White supremacy. White supremacy. You can compare it in many ways. One way you can compare Trayvon Martin to Emmett Till. Trayvon's murder ignited a flame in our young people, and it started a movement. Our young people stood up, they got up. And when Emmett was murdered, it started a movement. So it's history repeating itself.
Absolutely.
Regarding Trayvon, that's when, I guess, a level of consciousness for me, I was elevated to another level. I haven't always been conscious. I've never tried to claim that I was this, and I hate to even use the word conscious because we throw it around so much, like, oh, this person's conscious, that person's conscious. But for me, I've never been that person. But at that point, I stood up and I went out to some rallies.
And just to add to that, I like what you said about you didn't choose this, it chose you. in hindsight, no African American chose this fight.
No.
It was already chosen
Yes.
for us. And I think that now we're to the point, or you eventually will reach the point where you take responsibility and you say, okay, this is something that you can no longer live in the gray in anymore.
No, you can't.
So just from your perspective, how long do you think this fight will continue to repeat itself? When will we actually get to the point, or what do you think the viewers need to do to help us get to a point where we can start progressing and not having to go back to this place of considering another civil rights movement?
Well, number one, we need to stop murdering one another. Here in Chicago, that's a problem. I think we need to value, we don't value life, and we need to value our own lives. I think we need to teach our children at a young age, from the very beginning, that they are kings and queens, and that we are, they say black magic. We are that black magic. We are the chosen people. And they need to be taught that at a young age so that they can learn to value themselves and have dignity and pride in who they are. Our children don't have that today.
So how can the viewers that are interested in volunteering get in touch with you?
They can contact us by calling 1-585-OUR-TILL, OURTILL. They can find us on social media. We're on Twitter at Emmett Till Talks. We used to do, and we still do, talks regarding Emmett Till. Or they can find us on Facebook, Mamie Till Mobley Foundation on Facebook, and they can email us at mamietillmobley@gmail.com, and that's MAMIETILLMOBLEY@gmail.com.
Perfect. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope that you reach out to Airickca and just try and spread awareness, and let's all wake up.